The final script was ready on Friday afternoon, bound in the same heavy blue stock Ellen uses for all her estate plans. It was 4 pages long, with 3 yellow tabs along the right margin, indicating where my signature would go if I were actually the person making the decisions anymore. I put it in my briefcase next to my dad's old cloth-covered ledger and walked out of the office into the rain. The dining room table was fully extended when I arrived on Sunday, the extra leaf inserted so all 11 of them could sit together like a corporate board. A woman I didn't know sat in the corner by the hutch, holding a leather stamping device and a gold seal. Todd had hired a mobile notary for $75, a detail he shared within 40 seconds of my walking through the door. My mother sat at the head of the table, her hands folded over a fresh lace runner she only uses for holidays. Rick stood behind her, his arms locked across his chest, wearing the expression of a manager waiting for a late employee to sign a disciplinary write-up. The atmosphere was thick with a scent of pot roast and collective expectation, a heavy unearned certainty that filled the room. I sat in my usual chair near the kitchen door and reached into my bag, pulling out the blue folder Ellen had prepared for me. I didn't take off my coat because the house felt unaccountably cold, or perhaps I simply wanted to leave as soon as the ledger was balanced. I slid the document across the polished oak until it rested exactly in front of the notary. Rick leaned forward, his knuckles pressing into the wood until the joints turned white, his eyes scanning the cover sheet. "That is not the agreement Todd printed for you," he said, his voice dropping an octave into that regional authority he likes to use. "I told you on the phone to bring the document we finalized last week, the one with the family percentages." I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and saw the faint sheen of sweat along his hairline despite the draft in the room. "The trust took ownership of the ticket at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning, Rick," I said, keeping my tone perfectly flat. "The asset no longer belongs to me as an individual, which means it cannot be divided by a family agreement." The room fell into a silence so profound I could hear the rhythmic dripping of the kitchen faucet 3 rooms away. Todd reached for the blue folder, his fingers fumbling with the plastic spine as he flipped to the second page, his eyes darting across the legal phrasing. "This says the funds are managed by a corporate trustee in Columbus," he muttered, his face flushing. My mother set her tea glass down with a sharp click that made the silver rattle against the porcelain saucer. "Mara, what have you done?" she whispered, her fingers curling into the lace runner as she leaned toward me. "We had a plan to secure this family for the next 20 years, and you went behind our backs to hire a city lawyer." I opened my bag again and pulled out the old cloth-covered ledger, the one my dad handed me when I was 9 years old. I laid it open to the center section, where 25 pages of handwritten entries detailed 11 years of one-way transactions. I didn't read the numbers out loud because the ink spoke clearly enough for anyone willing to look. Every roof repair, every bounced payroll check, every set of tires, and every semester of tuition was recorded there in black ink with dates and signatures. And right there at the bottom of page 14 was the entry from the winter I turned 26, the $800 request with a neat notation next to it that read, "Mother refused." Rick slammed his palm against the table, the vibrations shaking the water glasses and causing the notary to take a visible step backward. "You think you are better than us because you keep a book," he shouted, his face turning an alarming shade of purple. "We are your flesh and blood, and you're treating us like credit card collections." I looked up at him, my hands resting flat on the table, completely detached from the anger vibrating through the room. "I know exactly what you owe the suppliers on the east side, Rick," I said softly, "because your supply house uses my office for their quarterly filings. You didn't want a family fund. You wanted a rescue boat for your business." Brooke stood up so quickly her chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor, her eyes wide with a mixture of anger and sudden realization. "You lied to us," she said, her voice shaking as she looked from me to the blue folder. "You let us think we were getting a fresh start while you were setting up a wall around everything." I stood up slowly, closing the ledger and sliding it back into my briefcase before zipping it shut with a deliberate click. I didn't lie to anyone, Brooke, I said as I buttoned my coat against the chill. I simply allowed everyone to show me exactly what their love was worth when the numbers changed, and you wrote the bill yourselves. My mother didn't look up as I walked toward the front door. Her head bowed over the lace runner as Rick began arguing loudly with Todd about the notary fee. The corporate trustee sends a check every month that covers Mom's medical expenses and the property taxes, because that is what a responsible daughter does. The family group chat went silent 3 days later, and the invitations to Sunday dinner stopped coming entirely, which is its own kind of peace. I still work above the bakery, and the smell of fresh bread still fills my office every morning at 7 while Josie makes the coffee. The numbers in my book finally balance, and for the first time in my life, the faucet is turned off.